You didn't say it out loud. Maybe you couldn't. Maybe the words caught in your throat or never left your mind. But it was real. That prayer, that whisper in the dark, that breath you barely let yourself exhale. And even if no one else knew, he did. He heard you. Not just the words you said, but the ones you didn't know how to form. The ache behind the request, the tear behind the silence. You may have thought it got lost in the noise of the world, overlooked, ignored, forgotten. But God doesn't miss a single cry, not one. Your prayer didn't vanish into space. It landed in His hands. And even though you haven't seen the answer yet, He already moved when your heart first reached out. Sometimes you expect the answer to show up fast, clear, loud, immediate. But God doesn't work like a vending machine. He works like a gardener, quiet, precise, intentional. And the moment you prayed, He began, not always with a miracle, but often with a shift, a door that closes, a heart that softens, a timing you don't understand yet. And in the waiting, doubt creeps in. You wonder if you were too broken to be heard, too inconsistent, too late. But that's not how grace works. God doesn't filter your prayers through your performance. He hears because He loves, because you're His, because even your most desperate whisper is a sound He never ignores. What you sowed in prayer, He caught in mercy. And even now, while you see nothing, He's already working in everything. You think silence means He didn't hear you, but what if silence means He's working deeper than you asked? What if the answer isn't delayed, it's being developed? God doesn't just respond to fix your situation, He responds to shape your soul. You wanted relief, He's offering restoration. You wanted the storm to stop, He's teaching you to walk on water. And while you're waiting for a yes or no, He's giving you something better. Himself, His peace in the middle, His presence in the waiting, His closeness in the confusion. You don't have to feel it for it to be true. Just because He's not loud doesn't mean He's not listening. He heard you, every word, every ache, every silence, and He's still listening, because love doesn't stop with one prayer. It stays, it sustains, it answers, in ways you didn't expect but always need. You've been measuring His response by what you see, by doors opening, by problems disappearing. But God doesn't prove His love through ease, He proves it through presence, through the quiet strength that held you when everything else broke, through the peace that made no sense in the middle of the storm, through the people He placed in your path at just the right moment. You think He hasn't answered? Look again. Look at how you didn't fall apart when you should have. Look at how you kept going, even when you felt done. That wasn't luck. That was Him. That was your prayer being answered in real time, just not in the way you expected. Because His answers aren't just outcomes, they're outcomes that transform you. And sometimes, the greatest miracle isn't the change around you, but the change in you. You may not have seen the outcome you prayed for, but what if God gave you what you truly needed, not just what you asked for? What if the closed door was protection? What if the delay was preparation? What if the silence was His way of speaking louder than words, drawing you into trust, not just answers? Because prayer isn't a transaction, it's a connection. A sacred space where your heart meets His, not to change His will, but to align yours. He hears you, not because you say it right, but because He loves you right where you are. And every time you feel overlooked, remember He keeps every tear, every cry, every silent, trembling word. He doesn't archive your prayers, He breathes into them. And even if the answer doesn't look like what you wanted, it might be exactly what your soul needed. So maybe this time, the answer wasn't in a miracle, but in your endurance. Maybe it wasn't in a breakthrough, but in the way you kept trusting when everything said give up. Because God doesn't just hear your prayers, He holds them. He weaves them into your story in ways you won't always understand now, but one day will make perfect sense. What you thought was silence was actually strategy. What you thought was delay was design. He heard you. The moment your heart trembled and your lips barely moved, he heard, and he hasn't forgotten, not even close. His answer may not come how you pictured, but it will come, and when it does, you'll realize he was answering you the whole time. When was a time you felt unheard, but later saw God had been listening all along?